Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome again to my channel and another budget review, this time on the NES game Dick Tracy. Now I got this game as a kid as a gift from my mother, and I remember as a kid not really getting into it because I couldn't really figure this game out. But once I grew up a little bit more and I was able to tackle more complex adventure games like The Legend of Zelda, I gave this one another go and I actually enjoyed it. And yes, angry video game nerd, it is possible to beat the first stage, and the second stage, and even the last stage. Although I do have to admit, I did use my Retron 5 save feature to cheat quite a bit during the last stage. It's not that I haven't done this game before, and I've actually beaten it on an actual NES, but it's been about 15 years since I last really played this, and I just forgot where all the first aid kits are during the final stage. And Dick Tracy, like a lot of games on the NES, definitely shows its age by its little forgiveness of death. In fact, that's this game's biggest flaw, as when you die, you're sent right back to the beginning of the case, and they can take anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes to solve, so dying, especially on the last part of a level, can be really frustrating. Also, anyone who is looking for a simple, straightforward action game based on a movie license should go look somewhere else because Dick Tracy is anything but simple. In the story of this game, you will be playing as Detective Dick Tracy, whose main obsession in his life is to take down the mob boss, Big Boy, and his crew of henchmen. Each stage starts off with Tracy and Big Boy insulting each other while Breathless there gets in an innuendo or two. They're tame, after all, they have to get past the Nintendo censors of the 1980s era. Other than these quick cutscenes, there's not really much of an overbranching plot in this game, but it was just kind of the typical standard of a 1980s NES game. As for the gameplay, each case will open up with you getting your first clue on the bottom of the screen. It will either lead you to an address or it will tell you to look up in your mugshot for a henchman who has an address in it in the mugshot. Although later levels will lead you guessing just a little bit more about where to go first, but for the most part it's pretty much easy to figure it out. After you figure out where to go, you hit the overworld and get into the car. Now, a lot of people have complained about the controls for this driving stage. I don't quite get the problem. Tracy is a cop, so he's going to be driving on the right side of the road at all times. With the exception of the occasional yellow car you have to make your way around, I found very little obstacles on the road that I had to dodge. So I didn't really find the fact that the car stuck to the right to be that annoying. Now, the absolute pain in the backside for these parts will be the snipers, however. They're small, almost hard to see, in fact, almost impossible to see sometimes, and you oftentimes don't know they're even there until after they have taken a shot at you. Beating them is easy once you figure out where they are in the safe areas on the screen to hide and the angles that they shoot at. At any rate, it always involves getting out of your car to take them down, which makes this game go even slower. And it does require a bit of patience, and a lot of people who play this probably just don't have it. You want to get in the car and you just want to go to the next action area. The snipers really screw up the pace. I wish they had found a little bit better way to make these action driving scenes a little bit funner. Once you get to an area, you hop out of your car and you enter an action stage. If there's an action stage in this area, it means one of two things. Either the area has a clue which you need to collect all of them in the stage in order to make an arrest, or you have one of Big Boy's thugs that you have to go interrogate to find out where to go next as well. Now, I do have to caution you, if you pick up a thug that had nothing to do with the crime, you will be penalized. Also, arresting the wrong thug or arresting a thug without enough evidence will also get you the same penalty. 3 strikes of this nature and you're out. Anyways, the action scenes here have you going around punching criminals that are unarmed, and just like Batman Arkham Asylum, these guys who just want to engage you in fisticuffs are no threat at all. The threats come from those who are armed with guns, and you have to shoot these people as quickly as you can or else they can really hurt you fast. Also, you're heavily penalized if you shoot an unarmed thug. Like a whole star off your health, and yes, you can die from shooting an unarmed thug if you are low on health, but there are power-ups all over the place to help you out. This weirdest one is this boxing glove, which gives you a super punch that sends foes just comically flying around the stage, and they will also take out other enemies that they hit. My only problem with this one is that it replaces your regular punches, and sometimes hitting the air can reveal items, and it's a shame that limits your wanting to search around the area, because if you grab one of these, you only get 10 punches. This yellow mustard can is actually a Tommy gun. Why this looks like a condiment and not a fully automatic gun, I don't know. All I know is you might tick someone off if you try to put that on somebody's burger. And yeah, I would probably also put this as the worst power-up in the game. Remember what I said about being penalized by hitting people who are unarmed? A gun that fires more than one round at a time can be dangerous sometimes in a crowded area. Then there is the tear gas grenades, which will pretty much clear off every enemy in the screen. And finally, we have the coveted first aid kits. When you have one of these, your health refills to full. However, they're tricky to use. You have to hold down B and then press select, and it takes a second or two for it to register. Now, I'm pretty sure the designers in this game made it this way so that you don't use these accidentally, because when you die, like I said, you're sent clear back to the beginning of the case. However, there is no instruction that you have to hold both select and B at the same time, and the fact that you have to do this means you take your hand off the control pad to do this. So you're going to have to find an area that doesn't have any bad guys to do this, and the chances of you getting killed because you're low on health are higher than they should be because they're used this way. Personally, I would have rather just pressed B. That said, these health packs do respawn whenever you leave and re-enter an area, so find an area that's really easy and has a health pack or two to stock up whenever you're low on health, and the game does become a bit more easier. It is a little bit tedious to do that, but when you consider what the consequences of dying is, you quickly learn to make sure you always have 1 or 2 health packs in reserve. In fact, with the exception of the last stage, the game is actually not that hard. The only hard thing about it is how much it penalizes you for dying. No extra lives, no continues. You start with your backside sent back to the beginning of the case, and you have to re-enter the passwords too. But Ninja Gaiden and Ghouls and Ghosts, this game is not. And despite some of the pains in this game, you do have the advantage of skipping some of the areas the second time around, as you do not need the information you get when you interrogate someone to make an arrest at the end of the stage. The graphics in this game are actually pretty good, with the exception of maybe the character designs on the action stage looking a little bit generic. While Dick Tracy himself has a lot of frames of animations, the bad guys don't, and they're all pretty much dressed the same way and only switch color palettes from area to area, which is such a shame, especially when you go look in the mug book and you just see how well the thugs look when you see their mugshot pictures, and then when you encounter them in the action stages, even Big Boy the last guy is just wearing your typical bad guy suit. The only person who gets their own sprite in the action stage is Breathless Mahoney, whose character sprite in the action stage does bear some resemblance to Madonna, who played her in the movie. Still, the backgrounds look gorgeous and the screen scrolls really smoothly in these action scenes. Outside the map screen, we got a fairly decent world in a 9x10 grid with different enough buildings and streets. Again, a gripe over those snipers blending in a bit too much. Well, you can only see them half the time until after you're fired upon, and that is really annoying. Overall, for an 8-bit game, the graphics in this game are actually pretty good. Sound-wise, the music is pretty good and fairly catchy. Not the best 8-bit tunes that the NES had to offer, but they're not bad, and I have heard far worse. The sound effects are also pretty good, with nice gunfire sound effects for an 8-bit game. If you have seen some of the other YouTube reviews around this game, especially the Angry Video Game Nerd's review of this game, you probably think that this game is one of the worst games of all time. It's not. It's a decent NES game. It's not a great game, but it is a pretty good one, which might be worth checking out if you're looking to add something to your NES collection that's a little bit outside the norm. And it usually goes for less than $10 on eBay, at least as of this recording. the NES game on eBay prices really do fluctuate, but right now it's under $10. Anyways, this is Tommy the Game Master thanking you for watching this video. If you would like, I would love to have you to subscribe to my channel and have you as a member of my community.